Hello, welcome back to my ICE tutorial series. This is episode 6, and today we're going to be talking about getKey, which is the method that you use to determine what key on the calculator is being pressed. There are two ways that you can use getKey. The first of which being taking getKey and storing it into a variable. What this does is it takes, every key is numbered. Every key has its own keycode value number, and getKey takes the number of the current key being pressed and it stores it to any variable you want. So it doesn't have to be G, it could be any variable. Now, every key, like I said, has its own code, and in the ICE download folder, there is a key codes picture where you can see all the codes. For instance, I know enter key is 9, clear key is 15, the arrow keys are 1 through 4, but every button has its own individual number. So if I was pressing enter, then this code would tell me that G is now equal to 9 because it says enter is 9, so I'm going to store 9 into this variable. When we call something like this, though, we want to put it inside a loop because if it's not in a loop, then the line of code only runs once, and it checks for the key press when the line of code runs, and the code runs very quickly. So it's just like an instantaneous, is the key pressed right now at this very moment. So that's not very effective unless we continuously loop it, so it's always checking to see if the key is pressed, which is why we'd want to put this in a loop. So let's put it in a repeat loop, which we talked about 2 episodes ago. Now, when we have our loop, we want to have our exit condition because we don't want it to repeat forever. So let's make it exit based on what key is being pressed. So repeat is a repeat until. So if we want to exit when a certain key is being pressed, we just want to repeat until G is equal to whatever value the key is. So let's say we'll want to exit the program when we hit clear, which I accidentally just hit. So in that case, it would be repeat until G is equal to 15. So this is code that should continue to run until G is equal to 15. So let's try to display the key codes of certain keys when we press them using this. So how would we want to do this? If we were going to take this code that we have and try to outfit it so that we can tell the user what the key code of the key they're pressing is. Well, we'll probably want to have a way to display it, but we don't want to continuously display the key. We probably want to display the key when we change what key we're pressing. So let's create a backup of this G variable. Let's have G store, let's have L store the last value of G before it changes with the get key. So now, every time it runs through, L will store the old value of the get key and G will store the new one. If a key isn't being pressed, then the get key will return a value of 0. So that's what will happen if that is the case. So now let's say if we have a difference in keys, if the key has been switched, that means that G is not equal to L. So if that's the case, then let's clear the screen and then let's output what key it was. So let's try to run this and see what happens. Alright, so we get 0. If we hit, say, the plus. Okay, so we can see it's flashing. It says it's 10, but it's flashing and then returning to 0 even though I'm holding it down. Let's try another key. We can see enter is 9, but it's really hard to tell because it's flashing. Why is it doing that? Well, it's doing that because when you store the get key like this, it only checks for when the key is pressed. It doesn't check if you're holding it. So if you're holding it, this isn't a good method to use. Remember how I said getKey can be used two ways? The other way is you can do getKey parentheses and then a value. And this checks if you're holding down the key, which makes it really useful in ways that getKey stored in a variable isn't. So instead of saying repeat until G equals 15 and then having the getKey storing in G, I can repeat until key 15 is pressed. So I don't have to have a G variable if I do it like this. And this is actually much faster. So I can repeat until getKey 15. So maybe let's make a quick program with this. So let's load up the graph screen. Let's set the background to white. Let's set our draw color to black. And then we'll close it off. Okay, so say we wanted to make a game. And this is basically how we'd go along the lines of doing it. Here's our game loop. And in this game loop, we're going to want to draw whatever we want to draw in the game onto the screen. And then the program exits when we hit clear. So this is different from what we were using with like pause and everything, because this actually adds some user interaction. We can have things moving on the screen. We don't have to have the pause be in effect. So let's try this. Let's store, let's do 150 stored in X. And then let's just draw, let's say just a filled rectangle. So a filled rectangle, and we're going to draw it at X. We'll draw it at, let's say, 110, and we'll make it a 20 by 20 rectangle. And then let's say if we have a key being pressed, we want to move it. So let's say if we have getKey of 3, which I believe it should be the right arrow, and we don't have to have the ending parenthesis. If we have getKey 3, which I think is the right arrow, let's increment X. So now we should be able to move this box to the right on the screen. And let's see if that works. Okay, it does. You saw that I hit right arrow. Let me show that again. I will show you how. I'm going to press right arrow, and when I do, the box moves, and I can hold it down, and it's moving to the right by 1 pixel every time I hold down the right arrow. And when I hit clear, the program exits. So you can see that that's how we use this getKey. We're going to use this all the time when we make programs. This is something that's really important. Now we'll talk about, I think I'm going to keep this video cut off right where it is, and in the next video we'll start off with this same program, and we'll say how do we make it so that the square is erased. And spoilers, it's going to be a video about double buffering, so that'll be next time. For now, that's all. Thanks for watching.